next guest is an incredible entrepreneur and I would consider a friend. In 2010, he founded BT Furnishings, a company dedicated to supplying furniture for colleges, universities, and other businesses. But in 2013, he took on a venture with a partner called Strange Donuts. And since then, they've been slinging donuts across the St. Louis region and keep things strange. In 2019, Jason purchased World's Fair Donuts here in St. Louis. That's actually, for those folks who are from the St. Louis region, you're aware of this place. It's been a place that was open for 28 years and was getting ready to go out of business. And, I think between his business sense and his generosity to the community, he was able to keep this thing open by purchasing it and keeping it in its exact same fashion after some work. So that's been a big gift to the St. Louis community. Jason holds a BBA from an international business from UMSL, the University of Missouri St. Louis. He has an MBA from Washington University of St. Louis, but as we probably get into this, we'll chop it up here in a bit, his road to success was paved through humble beginnings. I first met Jason when I was the chief housing officer, actually at a university here in St. Louis. And, I can say that, he'd come in and bring gifts and treats to our team. We did good business with him through BT Furnishings. And I remember he sat down in my office and we decided to have a real honest conversation. And that's when I realized quickly that we had a lot in common. And in fact, he became someone who I believe has been very inspiring to me and other people within the St. Louis community. And so we've had some real hard talks, and I think we've also had some really cool talks that have impacted me. And I'd love for folks who haven't had a chance to see other interviews or read other articles on Jason to get a chance to meet him as well.
Going one way is a two-way. It's the hard days that bring me back to love. Going
Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
You really talked me up there, dude.
Well, yeah, man. Well, I think people do need, it's interesting because I know we were talking before we started recording here, and it's amazing how sometimes I see this too within my personal experience, how I view myself versus how other people view me. And it's always a few notches down or maybe more. And I think it's the same for you, that you're able to stay humble and through all this, even though, how the world and for sure the St. Louis region sees you very differently despite all that. And so let's jump into it. So as I kind of shared, for folks who are in the St. Louis region, they know you from Strange Donuts for the most part and from World's Fair Donuts, but that's not it. So let's talk about let's talk about what you're doing right now. Let's talk about all your businesses. If you can just give a brief summary of what you're up to these days.
Yeah. So I own a company called BT Furnishings, and we sell mostly to universities and hospitals, furniture, mattresses. It started out just selling mattresses and to students, and then the school, WashU, was like, why don't we buy these for everyone and not just trying to sell ones and twos to students, And so that happened. That's still going. And so I own Strange Donuts here in St. Louis. We have 4 locations right now: Maplewood, Kirkwood, Creve Coeur, Edwardsville. And we own World's Fair Donuts, which has been around in some capacity in St. Louis since 1944. It was called something else, and it was about to be turned into like a Boost Mobile. And I was just like, we can't have that. Like, this is like part of our heritage as St. Louisans, Like, I lived 2 blocks from there growing up, like on 39th and Lafayette. And I was like, this place it's like Ted Drew's, and it was about to just go away. So we said, we can't have that happen. And then like in a weird, people who like are entrepreneurs or like always trying to move forward, there's something I talk about, like opportunity through motion. Like, you don't even know what the opportunity is. You just keep going and things happen. But by purchasing World's Fair Donuts, some stuff happened, and how that all came together was wild. There was a lot of, it's like an expensive piece of real estate. How I even got World's Fair Donuts is crazy. And I could talk about that a little later too, but like, by purchasing that building and that business, these people were like, hey, you're a real good guy. We appreciate what you're doing. What would you do with a farm? right? And I'm like, I don't know, where is it, right? It's weird. It's crazy.
Right.
And so real long story short, I now own this real big farm. And
whoa,
I don't know. It's like, it's massive. And I don't know, like we have some plans for what to do with it, how to like serve the community. I don't fully know it. I've never owned land before or anything, but like it could turn into a kind of a big business. So yeah, that's what I do.
that's amazing. I mean, yeah. No, I just don't think so. The guy I met, 10 years ago. So actually I worked at WashU in housing, and I think, were you selling the memory foam mattresses to WashU when they were trying them out? Yeah. So I didn't know you, and I apparently already know you because I was working as associate director in housing there. And I remember us, doing this and testing this out with students and the covers and the mattresses. And then when I transitioned to SLU in 2011, then I became a direct contact for you in the same business. But to follow the thread of all that, from that job, that opportunity you saw a gap for and you decided to fill it, to finding this opportunity around, and I read a little bit, listened a little bit about your story around food and food services and the hot dog stand.
Yeah.
So let's, and then to having this farm, which who knows what the possibilities are, but it seems like that could be endless. And I want to circle back to that as well, because I have some interesting kind of observations on my experience with you. But let's talk about that path though. So for those folks who don't know, like from a business standpoint, like what was your track there?
I mean, I had no education. I grew up like, in group homes, and I didn't finish 8th grade. I just thought I was dumb. I was like arrested all the time. And, I got tried as an adult for some stuff when I was 14. And I kind of like, I thought at one point, like, this will just be my life. All my friends like now are dead or in prison. Right.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't like, I was smoking cigarettes in the bathroom and getting caught. I was like drugs and guns and bad stuff. Right. And, I don't know, that's just like, I had this, we talked about this a little bit before you started recording. I had this feeling like, it's me against the world. And I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who the world was, but like, I don't know. I felt alone. At some point, something switched, but like, there were some people that, a few people in particular that kind of took an interest in me. And I was always, even doing all that stuff, I'd work hard, like if I was like, probably stupid, but if I was selling drugs, I'd go to the trap house, right? And if it wasn't booming, I'd start calling people like, hey, do you need some drugs? Right? That's probably dumb, and, but I don't know. I always had that, like, whatever it was. But then if I couldn't get it by working, I'd just take it. But I went to this. I lived in Arizona for a little bit, and that's where like I kind of got my life together. Just like, and there were some people that were doing, I don't know, just kind of mentors to me. I would go. There was a hot dog stand by my. I got a GED at that point. There was a hot dog stand by this place where I lived, and this guy sold hot dogs. So I just watch him, and I was like, I could do that. And I just asked him questions, and he really didn't give me any information. But anyways, I came back to St. Louis. People knew that I had like kind of cleaned my life up, and this guy said, hey man, I know who you used to be. Would you help my friend out? He has this hot dog stand. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I went there to, had no intention of like, I don't know. I went there and like tried to help this guy, and he was like, put some gloves on, sell hot dogs. Right. And so I was like, while we're talking, I just started selling hot dogs. I ended up like learning how to do that, how to navigate, like permitting and all this stuff. And I opened a hot dog stand. At the hot dog stand, I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to interact with everyone, because I just wasn't. I was real like ashamed of my past and who I was, and my teeth were busted up. I just looked like a little Hoosier. And I don't know. I felt like just this white trash kid. I was sure that that's who I was. But when I was out there selling hot dogs, I would like look everyone right in their eyes and say, there was like a couple rules. You had to say hi to everyone. And I don't know, I just started asking people about, like, without knowing it, I was doing this thing that Danny Meyer talks about, like collect the dots, connect the dots, right? So like I'm out here selling hot dogs in some of these bad areas, right? And I would just say, like, I would do my best. I'd be like, are you wearing a V-neck right now? This shirt?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I'd be like, V-necks are the best, dude. White, like, whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so I talk about, like, that's all I wear is V-necks, you know? And and then, so I started learning, like, okay, now that person, I'm not just this hot dog salesman, like, that's my dude, right? And I don't know, I ended up, like, learning a little bit about that. And school was so hard for me, I could hardly read. And I couldn't do any, I mean, like simple addition, right? And but I started, when I had the hot dogs in my hands, I was like, oh, that's what they're talking about with like price elasticity and supply chain economics and just all different kinds of stuff. So the things that I was hearing in school, I applied to the hot dog stand, and it taught me how to learn. And like my tests in school, you know, if I took an economics test, I would cross everything out where they're talking about widgets or boats or whatever. And I would be like, hot dogs, buns, mustard, like, and my test would come back looking crazy. They're like, dude, what is this? And I was like, I'm sorry. That's the only way I'm going to be able to do this. And I did it. And I, like you said, I ended up like, man, I got picked to go to school in China for this program called the Budding Scholars Program. And it was like all these Ivy League kids and then me, right? And, you know, fresh out of like, 3 years of being locked up, you know, and a little bit of time of doing good and having this hot dog stand. And they picked me because I was in this Chinese class trying to learn how to speak Chinese. Weird. I was like, man, I'll try to do that. And they were like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. This program's for entrepreneurs with, you know, some kind of tie to China. And I said, okay, I'll apply. And I started doing that, like, opportunity through motion. Like, I'd get asked to do something and I'd just say yes, right? While I was in China, I ended up meeting people that manufactured furniture, right? I came back to St. Louis. I was going to go to back to China because I just really liked it there. And I met this girl, and I ended up getting a job at a construction company, right? And at this construction company, I hated it. And one day we were finishing, like, building a building at WashU, and I'm like way low, man, on the totem pole. And I was walking through, and they started bringing in furniture, and I was like, I should sell that. I know the people that make that. So I called these people, and I was like, with the little bit of money that I had, I said, let me buy some samples, like those mattresses that everybody was testing. I bought those, right? And I gave them essentially to WashU. There was 100 mattresses. I was like, hey, change everything. They're like, whoa. I was like, all right, how about this? I give you 100 mattresses. You tell me what you think of them. And they're like, okay. Everybody liked the mattresses, so they said, we'll buy them. When I went to go install the mattresses, they had all these, I don't know if you remember this, but they had like big roll-off dumpsters all the way down Shepley Drive.
Shepley, yeah,
dude. And I was like, what are all these dumpsters for? And they're like, well, for the old mattresses. Stupid, you know? And I was like, you're gonna throw away all these mattresses? And to me, you know, just like this little scrappy poor kid, I was like, dude, I know some people that need mattresses. You know, I was like, I'll take all those mattresses. So I took all these mattresses. We ended up recycling them, right? So like the foam gets turned into carpet padding, cotton gets turned into socks and gloves, and the steel it's an immediate scrap value. So I went back to WashU with the check, and I was like, hey, here's like this money that I made off the mattresses you were going to throw away. I want to give it to the school. They're like, what? And so I was like, and that's one thing that I've like learned. One is like always constantly try to provide more value, even more value than the dollar that the customer is giving you. Give them $3 of value, you know, and like,
wow,
right? So real quickly, I mean, just how like you moved from school to school, it's like a super transient population, the person that purchases that stuff from you. So like WashU's like, we love you. And then you go to another university and they're like, hey, I got this dude, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up doing. And it just kind of blew up. And I was selling furniture. I ended up going to WashU. I had started this company that just failed miserably. And I was like, man, you know what? This probably failed because I'm not smart, because I don't have a good education, because, you know, I still had this like low self-worth. And I was like, that'll complete me, you know? So I went to school there. All I really learned at WashU was like, everybody's the same, right? There's like these kids that I was like, there's us and them, you know, there's like the poor kid and then there's the smart rich kid. And I will never be that smart rich kid. And you know, there was people in my class, you know, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, like all, you know, and I was like for an MBA. And I realized, like, you know, there's outliers, you know, there's like Martin Luther King or Steve Jobs or these people who, like, no matter how hard you work, how hard you try, you're not going to be that dude, right? Those are like, you know, generational people that are just kind of dropped into the matrix, you know what I mean? And but other than that, man, like, everybody has the same insecurities, fears, unless they're just crazy or lying. I'm like, man, we're more alike than different. I ended up not far after that starting Strange Donuts, and I was like, it went crazy. But I went into that just like, you know what, we're gonna do wild stuff. I'm not gonna care what we do. We're gonna do what we want. And more than anything, we're going to try to serve our community. So we started this thing called Strange Cares. And people didn't need to know it, but like there was a donut in the case. And from every one of those donuts that we sold, it'd be like 10 cents for something, right? And so, and we wouldn't really talk about it. The first thing that we did is I was listening to NPR, and there was like this story about 50,000 kids dying every year from tetanus in Africa. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Tetanus, 50,000 kids. So, you know, in like a month and a half, we got enough money. My goal was 50,000 tetanus shots, right? So we ended up buying, we bought 50,000 tetanus shots and used this company to distribute them in Africa. And we got boycotted by some people. And I was like, how, right? And these people.
Yeah,
what
like, was that?
They're like, this company that you used has affiliations with this other non-for-profit that is opposed to gay marriage. And I was like, well, I'm not. You know, there's like people picketing literally in front of our store. And I was like, hey, man, what are you doing out here? Like, what's the deal? You know, I just started talking to the people, and they told me that's why. And I was like, all right, man. Some of that like left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm like, man, you know, some of this old thinking, you know, no matter what I do, life is going to crap on me. I'm like, I feel like I did this good thing, and you turned it on me. But I was like, you know what, dude, like, let me take a step back. And instead of like something else that happened, when people found out that we were doing this stuff with money, like we got flooded with requests. And it was like, you know, Christian wakeboarders of America sponsor our trip to Tahiti. You know what I mean? And they were like, that was a real thing. And I was like, you the Christian wakeboarders need money, you know what I mean, to go to Tahiti, you know? And these people were relentless though, dude. And like, cool, maybe I don't know, they're gonna change the world through wakeboarding. But I was like, I don't have any connection with any of this stuff. And I was like, what do I really stand for? I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters when I was a kid, in between like being, you know, bounced around from, you know, group home to group home. I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I was like, knowing that this dude was in my corner changed my life. And so I was like, I was a big now in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I just saw something where I was like, man, these kids are doing good, and then they turn 18, they age out of this program, and then what, you know? So I was like, all the money that we raise is going to go to scholarships for these kids, and some of them might be Jason, you know, where they can't read, you know? So I was like, we don't care. We'd say, we don't care if it's hair school or Harvard, like whatever you want to do, ask me and I'm going to pay for it. And so we did that. So like we have this program called Strange Cares, and I don't know, that's kind of like in like a little nutshell. Like, and because of Strange Donuts, I knew the people from World's Fair. Because of World's Fair, I got this farm, you know, and it's like to go from this kid that can't read to like maybe one of the biggest landowners in Missouri, right? Like, what, you know? And I still like, people think I'm lying, you know, but I swear to God, man, I know you know this because you know me and we're friends, but like, I don't think I'm anybody special. And I think like my real message is like, hey man, don't buy into this crap that like there's some kind of caste system. You know what I mean? Like, I really do think it's, you know, people are definitely at different, you know, starting points, you know, but you work hard, be good. And it might not happen in your lifetime. This is something that I think about. And I know I'm just kind of running right now, dude, and you'd stop me, ask me questions, but like, I think about some of the people, you know, where I grew up and, you know, single mom, few kids, working her ass off. And like, I feel, I see people like try to represent that woman, you know what I mean? And like, you know, she needs $30 an hour and she needs one job and whatever. And it makes me think about, I'm like, I've really settled into this position where I'm like, maybe all my hard work ain't about me, you know? Maybe it's not my lifetime. Ooh, I get like emotional. Think about it, dude. That like, maybe I'm not the dude. Maybe I'm just meant to work my ass off so that my kids receive that benefit, you know? Maybe that woman that's like, you know, moved to a place that she can't afford and she's working 3 jobs so her kids can get a better education. You know what? Maybe you're not going to get a break. You know, maybe you're not going to get a vacation. Maybe you're not going to get a new car. But maybe that's the sacrifice. And I think that, like, I've thought for a while now, like, you know what, like, this isn't about me. This isn't about Jason getting ahead and having stuff. How can I best serve, you know, the people around me with the assets that I have? And I don't know, that's it. I have like at the same time that I'm like, you know, I have all this stuff and on paper I'm a millionaire, right? I don't talk about that a lot, but on paper I'm a millionaire. Strange Donuts last year, I made $9,000. Okay? Why? Because I'm like, pump it back in, you know? Pay people that work for me. You know, the lowest paid employee made way more money than I did, but I have like a 50-year vision of this, you know?
Yes.
And so I get like, we were talking like, man, on a daily basis, there's these knocks, you know, like, man, I suck today, you know? But if I kind of zoom back and I'm like, okay, will this matter in 50 years? No. Okay, is there a problem that can affect me 50 years from now that I have to take care of right now? Yeah. And it makes it easier to just kind of like stomach it, take lumps, and like look above that. Like, I have a 2004 Honda Odyssey that's like beat, you know, like, and I'm like, you know what, dude, that's fine. It runs. And, in a few years, it might be a Porsche. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. I'm interested. I'd feel bad if I pulled up in a Porsche right now and my employee had the '04 Odyssey, you know? Mm-hmm. So and that's led to some crazy stuff where like we have less than 2% turnover in all my companies.
Wow. That's amazing right there.
Right. So I don't know, you do good for people with no expect of return, try to add as much value to their lives as you can. And then, I don't know, great things keep happening to me and for me. And I'm nobody special.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Jason. So quite a number of things stand out for me, of course. One of them is kind of just second chances and second shots, people kind of looking at you and saying, hey, you got this interest, you know, let's tag you into this thing. You still not feeling totally competent or confident in that area, but you kind of talk about this idea of essentially keep moving, right? This like take the opportunity, take the step, regardless of of what it has to offer you. And so I think that to me is super impressive. But I think as we moved through the story, there's something that really stands out to me, which is this idea of maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's about like the experience I provide for my employees. Maybe it's about taking care of, maybe it's about my volunteering as a big now, since I've been a recipient of that organization, or maybe it's creating a product that makes people happy, right, and gives them a good experience. But maybe it's not about me. And I think that piece connected with your humility of still thinking like you're not that big of a deal and keeping yourself humble is pretty outstanding. I'm so curious to see what's going to happen with this farm, because I feel like there's something going to happen there. Right? Like I don't know what the vision is. You don't know if you know what the vision is, but I think being open to the idea of what possibilities can happen with this space is amazing. And I'm so curious.
Yeah. No, I don't, I've thought a bunch of different stuff. One, I know there's a lot of kids like me, and I know there's already places like this. I'd like for it to be a place where you're like, I know there's a lot of kids like me that never saw anything like that. Like, you go out in the woods, you know what I mean? Like, oh, there's a raccoon and a deer, you know what I mean? Like, some of that stuff just like providing a space for some other people to be. I think that like we'll, there's some stuff that you could do with farming, with timber, with camps for people. I'm also like, I don't know. Big Brothers, I'm on the board now. I'm on the executive board for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm also on the board for this recovery center in St. Louis. It's like for, they provide a bunch of different services, women's shelters. So I'm like, man, maybe that's another phase of that program for those people. Or I have no idea. There's a guy that we sell, it's called Rolling Lawns. If you drink milk, this is the best milk on the planet, I'm telling you. Yeah. And they were like 100 years old. There's 12, I think, dairy farms in the United States every day that go out of business, right? And these are like family-owned small places, and they get like gobbled up by these big companies. And I don't know, I found these people. I'm like, man, you guys are good people. Dude, how much milk can you make? And they're like, I don't know, we can make about this much. They have like 50 cows or something. I'm like, we'll buy all the milk, right? They're like, what? Wow. I'm like, I could sell 1,000 gallons of milk in my store a month or something like that, right? And they're like, okay. And through doing that, like they were able to like expand, and now they're doing really well. And I'm paying more for that milk than I can get milk somewhere else. But the story of it, the way I feel about it, what it's doing for our community and creating jobs for other people. And here's the payoff, right? Like, so I'm paying more for the milk. I'm making less money on it. But people like mess with me more. You know what I mean? I don't want to cuss on here. I don't know what your audience is, but like. You
can cuss. I'm sure, clean and explicit. Right. And I've had other interviews.
Yeah, people are like, I fuck with Jason. You
know they fuck with you, yeah.
So like, and I'm like, and you know what? I fuck with you. Like, if we sell, and I'm like, here's the turn is like, the guy that has the cows says, we might need more space for more cows. And I'm like, I might have that space.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. So,
you blow my mind.
You never know, like, and I don't know anything about cows or farming or anything, but like one thing that I've always done really well is like, a pro doesn't need to know, a pro knows who knows. And like, I know the dude who knows about the cows, and he's like, not like I expected anything in return from him, but he's like, hey, anything I can do for you. And he proposed to me this option. So who knows what happens? I'm like, you keep moving, educate yourself. I mean, like, anything I don't know, if it's crazy to me that we even ask each other questions anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like, Google it, dude. Like, it's all out there. There are no gatekeepers of information anymore. You know what I mean? Like, with a little bit of tenacity and like, that first permit that I got for doing the hot dog stands, it was like, it might as well been chopping my hand off. It was so hard for me, but now it's like nothing, it's drinking water. And so, but I Googled all that, like, how do you write a business plan? How do you, apply? And I don't know. So whatever, who knows what'll happen with this place? The possibilities are kind of endless. And I do think that like, it's kind of a game changer for for me. In some stuff, like I don't have a ton of money in the bank. I have all these, like I have, and I think that I will have a lot of money in the bank, but like I have stuff and I keep pouring the money back into these operations, and we're going to open a new store. And I keep being like, all right, dude, stay uncomfortable, kick the can down the road, and the payoff will be bigger. And so one thing that's kind of messed us up at Strange Donuts is that, like, you go to a bank to try to get a loan, and they're like, okay, well, maybe people don't know this. If a bank is going to loan you $100,000, they want you to have $100,000 also, right? So
okay.
I'm like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be at the bank if I had that money, dude. I wouldn't be here. But now with this farm, like, I'm a little dangerous, right? I go to the bank and I'm like, hey, I need $100,000. And they're like, well, what do you have to back it up? I'm like, I got this land. And they're like, well, do you want 2 million?
Whoa.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
yeah.
so I'm trying to pace myself, like, all right, don't do anything yet. See what the possibilities are. And so I didn't know that that's how that stuff worked. I thought it makes sense to me, like, work hard, save your money, buy more things that serve more people and make more money so you can serve more people. But banks don't work like that, So I've learned that. And so it's another little, I'm just constantly evolving, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of more things. Well, at least one more thing before we get into the best worst thing question. So I have this problem, and I think we talk about it at my work with students and staff and faculty. This idea of kind of imposter syndrome, of saying like, maybe I shouldn't be here. How did I get here? Maybe I'm not deserving. And these stories that we make up in our heads. And so I'm just kind of curious about you when you get to those stages where things are not going as well as you planned, or you're hitting a down moment. What do you do to push through those sticking points?
A couple things. One, I think that, like, it's good to have some evidence, right, in my head of some wins, right? Like, I try to say, like, when I get into a situation where I'm uncomfortable, one, I'm talking to you right now the way that I would talk to a customer, the way that I would talk to a kid, the way that I'd talk to the president. You know what I mean?
Right.
I try to not censor or filter myself so that way I don't have to, like, go into a room and shuck and jive. I go in as me, and I think that was a real hard thing for me for a while, and to just, like, all right, dude, be comfortable being you, whether it's imperfect or not. I'm on the board for this college, for the College of Education. I walk in there like me, these dudes don't know it, but I've been, my kids have been up all night, and before they were up all night, I was working, and I came in like, one, I didn't know this. I dressed the way I dressed, and they were in suits and stuff. And they're like, nice to see that you wore your good t-shirt. And this dude kind of took a little shot at me. And I was just like, all right, man, and my first reaction was, I don't belong here,
Oh, yep.
Right? And then I was like, because I have, like, this evidence in my head of, like, little wins that kept compounding. I got my GED. I know how to add. I have a hot dog business. I have an apartment. I have a girlfriend. I have an education now. You know what I mean? Like, so there's, like, this kind of long list of wins that I just kind of looked at the dude and I was like, man, I'm sorry that you think, I didn't say this, I'm thinking, oh, you think like that if I had a suit on, I'd be more valuable. Man, that must be a shitty place to live, to where you just look at people and value them differently. And I had compassion for this dude, right?
Wow.
I was like, and maybe he's right. Maybe I should have been in a suit. I don't know, but I couldn't be that day. And so what I do is I try to stop and I say, who am I really? Am I being true to myself? And you know what, dude, not everybody's going to like me. And when I hit these points where like, you know, I'm not perfect and I still screw some stuff up, but I have some kind of baseline values that I stick to. And so I think that, you know, at the end of the day, if I hit sticking points, Nipsey Hussle had this story and he was talking about, he was like, it's not supposed to be easy, kid. It's science. You know, he's like, gravity. You don't get mad at gravity, you know? And he was like, you're supposed to like be down here. It's going to be hard to get up here. So don't get mad that it's hard. And I think about that. And sometimes like, I don't know. I like, when things are really getting hard, I'm like, oh, I'm doing it right then, you know? So keep going, kid. And I talk to myself that way. I talk to myself like I'm a kid, you know, like, all right. And one thing, this is like a good thing that I've used also. When I don't know what to do or it's confusing, I picture myself in a suit like the CEO of a big company. And I'm like, I'm going to him and I'm like, what should I do? And usually, you know that you know what we need to do, but sometimes it's just hard to take action. So I ask this guy, hey, CEO Jason, what should I do right now? And he gives me clear answers. And I do that. That's what I do.
It's an interesting and amazing exercise of acknowledging and understanding the truth that you actually do know the answers, but being willing to reframe your brain to go into those conversations with yourself, to provide yourself with those answers.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you know, that the Nipsey Hussle quote, because, you know, I think that the grind is really hard out here for a lot of different reasons and for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons, depending on their backgrounds, experiences, and life stories. But I've become a big adopter of that idea of, okay, if it's a grind right now, something's wrong, something right's around the corner. And so I'm going to keep pushing through. So I love that. I think that's why we connected also all those years ago. It was when you closed my office door, and we started chopping it up and having real talk about our backgrounds and experiences. I was like, oh, he's a real one. Like, that's a guy who's been through some things and seen some things. And little did I know I was going to see some things after those days in between, even more things. But you know, the fact that you were still standing was inspirational for me and was telling me that I was on the right track, coming from my background of still pushing forward and knowing that there's some really good possibilities for my future, man. And so I appreciate you.
Going one way, is it two ways? It's the hard days that bring me back to love.
So I'm going to hit you with the real one now. Speaking of you being the real one, I'm going to hit you with the question about the best worst thing, which, as a reminder for listeners, this is a time where personally or professionally, somebody has gone through a setback, a challenge, or a difficult experience. And so the question behind it is, what's your best worst thing, and how did you push through it? What are the lessons that you learned?
Man, there's a lot of failures. There's several. I mean, the worst thing that's ever happened, my brother committed suicide, right? And personally, like, he was my best friend, you know? I was so hurt, so angry, and it screwed me up for a while. And I can't say that that's the best thing, but like what's happened is, like, I talked about this when we were just talking, right? When we were talking before you recorded, and there was like some fundamental stuff that used to be like, it was like hardwired in my head, that a tape that continuously played in my head was, no matter what you do, you're still going to be this piece of trash, you know? And at some point it changed to, no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. The worst thing that could have happened to me is to lose my brother, and it tore me apart. Like, I was catatonic literally for a while. Like, I just like sit and couldn't talk. And and then I realized like my brother was like a light, you know. The only thing that's like left now is like there's like still pain for sure sometimes, you know, like I just almost cried, but like really there's just like these beautiful memories of who he was. And I thought at some point after that, coming out of it on the tail end, like, man, that was the worst thing that could have happened to me, and I am still here, you know. And I'm like, I can't think of anything that would hurt that bad, and I might not ever have anything in my life that hurts that bad again. And Mason was his name. And you know, a lot of the stuff that I do like, you know, like I know that when he did that, I don't think that people want to kill themselves. They want to like kill that moment, you know, the way that they're feeling right then. And I'm like, I have those moments, you know, and I don't know, maybe he did or didn't realize, I don't know, like how many people were really pulling for him. When I get into a real dark spot, I'm like, all right, man, like I do think of Mason, and I think of like where he was, and I think of what that did to everyone around him. And not like I blame him or I'm mad at him or anything. I'm over that. I understand that he did what he needed to do. But I say to myself, all right, man, I settle in and I close my eyes. I'm like, you've been here before. You know what this feels like. And you know that you've come out of it. You're going to be all right. Keep moving. And I don't know, in like a weird way, I feel like that happening has made me kind of bulletproof. So,
Jason, that is so powerful. Yeah, I'm sitting here just blown away by that. It's just a powerful story and a powerful way in which you've utilized probably one of the most tragic situations that anybody will ever experience in their lifetime to find a way and find some power through it, even though I know it's still painful and it still hurts. I don't think there's a good time to lose any family member, let alone a brother who you felt so close to. What's also interesting to me also is when you hit those dark moments, which I think some of us have experienced at varying times in varying different ways. I mean, I remember during my worst days, not too long after we met, being there and having some really bad spots as other friends of ours have. And I remember and looking back at that and thinking about getting even through those dark times or seeing people around me and go through difficult losses like that. I think it's a good reminder of when I do hit a rut or hit a difficult time, to be able to stop, pause, and really think about and acknowledge that with evidence that you talked about earlier, the actual evidence that things are actually going to get better, things will get better, and that you have way more evidence about that than anything else. So I do appreciate you being vulnerable with that. So Jason, I don't want to close on that because I really think that there are, besides also I want to make sure people know how to find you and get to buy and do business with you and get to enjoy all the good stuff. I don't know, man. I might have to do it again this weekend for my cheat meal because, man, I housed those donuts this past weekend. It was all of them. So just real quick, Jason and I, when we were working on with furniture and I was buying furniture from his company. He came to my office one day. He's like, man, I'm thinking of getting in on starting this company called Strange Donuts. I'm like, oh, tell me more about it. So Jason's sister, and he tells me about, having these funky different flavors and all these things. And I may have told you this before. I remember, I don't know what kind of look on my face I had, but I remember looking at you thinking, wasabi on the donut. I just think like, what is this dude talking about? And I just remember thinking, okay. And then all of a sudden seeing it coming to action. Like you were speaking about it. You were telling others at this point because you were doing work behind the scenes and then you putting it into action. And so I kind of like to close on this. When you encounter not only just the self-doubt, but people around you, like even me, who's supposedly a friend who doesn't quite get the vision. How do you push through those times?
I think sometimes you need to listen to people. You know what I mean? If they're like, man, that's stupid. I do these things specifically with business called a break-even analysis, where it completely removes the emotion, right? Like we've been open 7 years of Strange Donuts, right? We're looking at opening another store. We opened one last year.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at opening another store. And when I was like, all right, I told the landlord, like, okay, we're gonna do this. So I'm either gonna buy the building or we're gonna lease the building. And then I'm terrified, right? Like, man, I shouldn't be afraid. I know what the store's gonna do. So what I do is called a break-even analysis, where I put it all on paper, it removes the emotion, and it says like, sale price, it's variable costs. Fixed costs divided by sale price minus variable costs. And so when I do this little calculation, and I don't need to run anybody through it, but you can Google it. It's called a break-even analysis. And like, that was one of the first things that I learned in school that really helped me conquer a lot of this self-doubt. So what it tells me is, it says, how many of these things do I need to sell to break even? And it's not as intuitive as people might think that it sounds. And so I do it, and then it tells me I need to sell 3 dozen donuts an hour. And then I have to sit back and be like, all right, dude, do you think you could sell 3 dozen donuts an hour? And I'm like, there really have to be something really wrong to not be able to sell 3 dozen donuts an hour. And then I say, we're doing it, regardless of the way I feel, because I'm telling you, I still get terrified. And I think that fear does 2 things to people. One, out in the jungle, that's going to motivate you. You know what I mean? You better run from that lion, or you're going to freeze, and it's crazy to me. I mean, I think that we're animals, and I don't know, you see it, like the gazelle lock up, or the gazelle take off. And we're that at a base level. So I've kind of trained myself, man, to like, when I don't know, dude, I love in Black Panther when she's like, don't freeze. And he's like, I never freeze. And so, dude, I say to myself now, when I really get afraid, I'm like, don't freeze, bro, and I'm like, and so after I say don't freeze, it doesn't matter what I do, as long as I keep going. So that's it. That's what I do. I do a break-even analysis, and then I just I tell my fear to shut up. There it is on the paper. I think I can do that. Now move, dude. Move fast, because I think that we can overthink, overanalyze stuff. So I try not to do that anymore. Absolutely,
man. So this break-even analysis, there's a couple takeaways I have, and I'm sure there's going to be so many more when I listen back over on this podcast. Definitely don't freeze. I think movement is life. I think you've made a really good, strong case of that. And then also look at the actual evidence, kind of go back in your mind and really pay attention to what you've done if you want to get a real gauge on reality in the future and success. Jason, man, you continue to amaze me, inspire me. I want you to always remember that, people like me are paying attention. You see where I'm at right now and my progress in my life. You saw me in some even darker moments than when we first met.
Yeah.
And you see where I'm at now. And it's because I watch people like you. Like, I'm paying attention. And even if you don't know it, I'm watching you, and that's how I'm making moves in my personal and professional life and allowing me to move forward. So I thank you, and I think you need to hear that from me publicly, and both personally and publicly. I thank you for doing you, man. You keep moving, dude.
Thanks, brother.
So before we wrap up, Jason, I want to make sure people can find Strange Donuts and you for business on social media and anything else.
Yes.
How can they find you?
So my phone number, whatever, call. I'll just tell you, 314-625-0051. And if you're, purchasing furniture, that number goes to me, right? And BT Furnishings, it's plural, btfurnishingstl.com is the website. We don't do social media or anything on that. But strangedonuts.com is our website for Strange Donuts. And then all of our socials are at Strange Donuts, DONUTS. Me personally, I'm Cerny Banders on Instagram. So Bernie Sanders would switch the B and the S. Cerny Banders. I feel like that's like a good rap name if I ever start rapping. Cerny Banders, baby. But and that's me. So if I can be of help to anybody, if I don't know, straight up, if you're having a hard time or whatever, you can call me. And then if you think that we can do business together, that's cool too, and whatever. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. And make sure you follow him for sure. And the Strange Donuts has an awesome Instagram account. And so, yeah, I think it's great. It's entertaining, and it brings a lot of joy to us here in the St. Louis region.
I do want to say two things real quick. Dude, one, you look good, dude. You look real good. I'm like, I've been getting like doughy. You're over there looking svelte, dude. And two, I just shaved this morning in the shower. I was using the clippers, and then I forgot, and I came out. I don't usually have this like cowboy mustache, but I was like, I'm gonna rock it.
I think you should keep it for a while, man. People can't see it. We're just gonna release the audio. I'll hold on to the video if you ever want to release it. I can, but other than that, but I still think you look. Jason used to come into our office, and they used to swoon, y'all. They used to swoon. All right, brother.
The lady love.
Well, I love you, brother. I'm gonna stop on the recording, man. But great seeing you. Hold on 1 second. Thank you for listening to the Best Worst Thing podcast. I'm your host, Josh Walewa. Music is produced by DJ Josh One. You can follow him at Boom Note on Instagram and Twitter, and Josh One on Spotify. The Best Worst Thing podcast is edited by Cool Jets Audio and Visual. You can find them at Cool Jets AV on Instagram. Our marketing is designed by Francesca Daniels. You can find her at FrankandKitty24 on Instagram. And our overall design is by Inspired Design with Ryan Daniels. You can find them at getinspired.design on Instagram. Please download us from iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite platform. And remember to share us with your friends, especially those people you think really need us in their life. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Thank you for listening to the Best Worst Thing.
The cool Cali kid from the boondocks. Bounce through your hood like chocolate with a crime on. Independent think to play a beat, I get my rhyme on. So when I strut on a path to perfection, city to your borough, to your town, to your streets. Keep your party live, Josh One. Got beats out of nature, Grazer, Oakland, strays to Asia. Hits like Frazier, force of Fantasia. Move through your suburb, hike.